Hi everyone and welcome to another video from Hostile Territory. In this video we'll be talking about something that is very important, especially in a toxic and hostile workplace, and that is the art of office politics. In this video you'll see some of my recommendations on how to practice office politics and why it is so important. So I hope this video helps. Stay tuned.
Hostile Territory.
Now, what is office politics? To define the term, if you were to type the term into Google, you'd get a nice fancy definition of what it is, and you can go and take a look at it. In my personal opinion, office politics is nothing more than you being able to successfully manipulate with other people. That would be the main definition. So you have the power, I don't know how to call it any other way, you have the power to, in certain situations and under certain conditions, to make other people do what you want. Now, why would this be so important? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious, especially in a toxic and hostile workplace. If you work in a normal company where the owners or management are normal, if the co-workers are normal, you probably won't have to practice office politics at all. Or if you have to, it's going to be to some minor extent. But in a toxic and hostile workplace, to put some sort of scale onto the importance of it, 70% is office politics and 30% is work. In a toxic workplace, nobody cares about your work and how you do work and everything else. It's all about the office politics. So if you want to sail through a toxic and hostile workplace, if you want to get through that whole ordeal unscathed, you have to practice office politics successfully. Now, before I start with the tips, I would just like to say that all of what you'll hear and see in this video comes from my personal experience from my previous toxic workplace. Of course, there are other ways to do this, and I would recommend that besides watching this video, watch any kind of video, read any kind of book or any kind of other source that will help you master office politics. Again, it is very important for you to know how to practice office politics successfully. It will be a huge help in a toxic workplace. The first tip on this list, that is the foundation of practicing office politics, is to get rid of any kind of empathy that you may have towards your coworkers in a toxic workplace. By nature, manipulating people and empathy do not go hand under hand. They are totally different from each other, and it is like oil and water. They do not mix with one another. Now, this will be hard if you're a well-behaved person, if if you like people, if you like communicating with people in a normal way, it's going to be hard. But always remember this, it is necessary. It is a necessary lever for you to get through that toxic workplace, as I've mentioned. And if you don't do it, someone else will practice those office politics on you and you will get screwed over, that's for sure. So perhaps the most important part of this tip is to get rid of any kind of moral issues you may have. I mean, you don't have to be sinister, you don't have to be a bad person, you don't have to act like a bonehead or something like that. Rather, implement those office politics into your being while you're at that toxic workplace. I don't know if I'm clear enough. Just act normally, but always have those office politics in first place. My next tip for you would be to have a firm stance when practicing office politics. What does this mean? Well, you have to have some sort of facade of yourself in that toxic workplace. For instance, when you come home, you may be a totally different person. You like to joke, you like to socialize, you're a kind person, you're a well-behaved person, but in a toxic workplace that will not work. You can't be the same person. In a toxic workplace, you have to practice the image that will best suit practicing those office politics. What I've seen works best is to have that, again, as I mentioned, a firm stance. So you don't joke, you don't talk too much, you don't socialize too much. You have sort of a semi-angry stance towards everybody, if you know what I mean. You're not pissed off all the time, but you're sort of like this all the time. And what I've seen is that this has very good effect on other people, especially people that want to do harm to you. When you have this stance all the time, trust me, people think twice when trying to set you up with something. The next tip I have for you is about favors. Now, favors are an important part of office politics, and if you want to lead them successfully, this is an almost magical tool. In what way? Well, sooner or later, you'll see, even in a toxic workplace, that you'll be in a situation where you can do a favor for someone. Someone will need to skip work and you have to replace them. There will be new tech and you can show the people around you how it's done and other things, When that time comes, be sure to do one very important thing. And this is where I made a mistake. Make sure that the favors are known and that you in-debt that other person. See favors just like as borrowing money. When I borrow you money, I expect you to return the money somewhere in the perhaps near future. If you do otherwise, and if you give favors head over fist, like I did, all you'll do is just earn further disrespect and you'll just push yourself lower down in that toxic workplace. Favors have this possibility of transforming people. When people are in debt towards you and see that they have a favor to return, they will either return that favor as soon as possible or they will start seeing you differently. They'll start perhaps avoiding you, they'll start treating you differently, they'll get off your case for certain things. It may make your life easier in a toxic workplace. Another super important part of practicing office politics is you must watch what you say in your workplace and to whom. Now, we talked about this in previous videos, especially in the video about gossiping and everything else. When you work in a toxic workplace, you can never put your guard down. When practicing office politics, again, it's manipulating. And in manipulating, you have to do it successfully. To do it successfully, the communication between people must always be under your control. And again, I'm talking this like you're going to be some sort of secret agent, or something like that. But that's just the way it is. For instance, the moment you go into that company, the moment you enter it, it's a whole different world. In a toxic workplace, people will come towards you, gossip one person, and then immediately go to that same person and gossip about you. Also, if you tell sensitive things about people, even if they are true, for instance, even if you've had problems with someone's performance at work, and their results at work, even if you tell that, that can be a very dangerous thing. So in office politics, it is immensely important that you always think and weigh what you're going to say, and that rhymes, before you actually say it. If you don't do it that way and you're a blabbermouth, your office politics will never succeed. Next, we come to my favorite tip, and that is to advertise yourself successfully in a toxic workplace. This is something you must do. And this may be hard, especially if you're an introvert, if you like me, just to work, do your job and go home and everything else. That will not cut it. If you want to successfully practice and lead office politics, you must advertise yourself whenever you can. This means answering the phones, putting yourself in the spotlight when it's safe, whenever the head management is coming, be present. And I know you may seem this as pathetic or lame, but it is immensely successful. I guess it's just a trait of human psychology. Over time, those people will see you as the achiever and as the big worker, and they will forget about all the other people. I'll make an example from my previous workplace, and I mentioned this in my testimonial video. I was the rock star of my company for the first 3 years when there was lots of work, and that work demanded that the head management has contact with me nonstop. But over time, my colleagues managed to advertise themselves into taking all the credit for that. After 4 or 5 years, they were the ones who were doing all the work. They were the ones who were the achievers, who successfully managed through problems, while the whole time I was doing the majority of work. How did they do this? Well, it was simple things. Like when there was some sort of gathering, they were the first people to go down to the head office and see other people within the company. When the head management called, they jumped to the phone like their lives depended on it, answered the phone. Oh my God, there's lots of work. Oh my God, I'm working. Oh my God, I did some overtime and everything else, when in fact the whole time they were mostly lying. But again, this has a profound effect on other people. I don't know how this functions, but it does. The head management started over time ignoring me, even though I did all of that work, and putting them in first place. This is just how things go. And if you want to lead office politics properly, you must avoid this. Next, avoid conflicts at all cost. If you're in conflict all the time, if you're verbally violent towards other people, if you get into quarrels, into conflicts and everything else, especially in a toxic workplace, seldom will anybody want to have anything with you. On the contrary, they will try to push you out of the company as soon as possible. To successfully do this in a toxic workplace, you must weigh every conflict that you get in. We made a specific video on this topic. I'll leave a link so you can check it out, how to solve conflicts in a toxic workplace. Every time you get into a conflict, you must see the possible end of that conflict, what it brings you, is there damage after that conflict, and what can happen in the long run, which is more important. Office politics is about manipulating people. And if you're in conflict with people, you won't be able to manipulate them. It's as simple as that. So once that conflict starts, quarrel, conflict, whatever, think about that person. Think about where that person is in your interest. If that person is not important, if it's someone who's just practicing their ego trip, finish with that immediately. But if that person down the line can perhaps help you, do a favor for you or something like that, be careful what you're doing. It may mean the difference between, for instance, something being very successful and you getting the points for it, or something running into the ground. Next, and this may be hard for the majority of people, is to learn how to small talk. Small talk is, at least in my opinion, nothing short of an art. And who knows how to do it successfully? It's just like, practicing a martial art. In my opinion, it is essentially talking for long periods of time, talking a lot and not saying essentially anything important. But that's just how I see it. The truth is that most people love small talk. And regarding office politics, why is it so useful? Well, small talk, if you've had the chance to see this and to witness this, I have numerous times, is like a big golden key that will let you open the vault of someone's personality. Again, this sounds, a bit bad on the moral side and everything else, but, this is, again, office politics. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. For instance, you have a lunch break, you have some sort of gathering, you have some sort of break from work and everything else, and you approach someone from from the management, your boss, your coworker and everything else, and you start small talking. You start talking about cars, you start talking about cooking, gardening, something like that. As you'll see, small talk has that ability to go under that facade and show you what that person is all about. If you see that you can use that person for your own gain, it is very useful to start that kind of small talk. Over time, if you're successful, that small talk can perhaps turn into some sort of acquaintance, and then you can manipulate with that person however you want. Again, this sounds bad, but this is how the mechanics of the whole thing goes. For the last tip on this list, that is very powerful, just as powerful as doing favors, yet it is very hard to practice, especially if you have a big ego, and that is to learn how to flatter people, or to put it into more crude terms, to learn how to suck up to other people. I would give a couple of recommendations so you don't make a fool of yourself, since even flattering and sucking up, there is a way how you do it. The first thing would be, don't suck up and flatter everybody, just the important people and the ones you can manipulate. So the head management, your boss, important coworkers, and that's it. For other people, just forget it. Don't do it. The second thing would be, don't flatter all the time. It's like eating delicious fruit all the time. The fruit will lose its taste. But if you do it in certain doses, it will be much more effective. What is the gain regarding office politics? Again, this is obvious. No one is immune to flattering, trust me. 99% of the people on this planet like to hear how they are the best, how they are the masters of the universe and everything else. If you do it in the right way, just like with small talk, people will start to open to you and you'll start getting a different angle of those people. And because of this, just like with small talk, you can manipulate with them easier. Over time, if you do flattering the right way, you may even gain acquaintances and you may even strengthen your position within a toxic workplace, which will make your life easier. So, dear viewer, that would be the list of my recommendations for how to practice office politics. I must say one more thing about all of this. I sincerely think that it is bad business. I personally don't like to manipulate people. I like to work with people. I like to be with people that I can communicate with and do things in sort of a clear and transparent way. But that's not the way everything works in a toxic workplace, and please remember this. And this comes from a person that learned it the hard way. I did 4 or 5 years of back-breaking work only to go into obscurity, and at the end I had to leave the company because all of the behavior was intolerable. One of the big reasons is that my coworkers knew how to practice office politics and I didn't. So it is what it is. It's politics. It's not charity. You can't be nice. You can't be good. Sometimes you'll have to manipulate people in a bad way. Sometimes you're gonna have to do things that you're not proud of. Again, it is what it is. If you want to save yourself, save your back, save your health, you must do this in a toxic and hostile workplace. Otherwise, trust me, your coworkers will eat you alive. You will work like a horse for most of the time and you will get zero recognition for it. And at the same time, you will watch your other coworkers gain credits from your work, gain credits from all of the things you've done, and you will end up with nothing. So that's it for this time. I hope this video helps. Please don't take this the wrong way. Again, I am against any kind of manipulation. I am against any kind of misusing people, but again, this is a channel about toxic workplaces and it is a specific environment, specific people, and you must act accordingly. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.